Welcome to Red Kingdom Sports, and we are here to discuss Monday Night Football between the Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. And my first takeaway from this game is I thought it was kind of fun. Not gonna lie, this game was really, really fun. And the first thing that I looked at right after this game, because Twitter was going insane over it, rightfully so, was the NFL playoff picture. And good God, how this game completely shaked up the NFL playoff picture. And it's not just because nobody's clinched a spot yet. It just literally shook it up to the point that everybody is still alive right now. Literally everybody. There's four teams eliminated: the Lions, Jags, Texans, Jets, whatever. No one cares about those teams. They suck. No one cares about them. We're moving on from them already. But you look at the NFC, you have the Packers who moved up to number 1, you have the Buccaneers at number 2, you have the Cardinals falling down to number 3. I assume that because the Buccaneers owe a tiebreaker over them, which, makes sense. Cowboys 4, you have the Rams 5, and you look at the top 5 of the NFC just after the night: Packers 10-3, Buccaneers 10-3, Cardinals 10-3, Cowboys 9-4, Rams 9-4. Like, the NFC is just, it's absolutely insane. Now the Rams are literally one game back of the Cardinals for the division lead in a game that they really desperately needed to win. And it's not just they needed to win, they also had players out of this game that were really significant. Tyler Higbee and Jalen Ramsey out definitely hurt this. They're big losses. They pulled out the victory. They had a lot to deal with. They pulled out the victory, but man, losing those guys before the game even started is an absolute hit to that team, because they need them. Like, those are two very key pieces to this offense and Jalen Ramsey of the defense. But man, this game was honestly quite a bit of fun. It really was. I want to look at the Cardinals first, I guess. We're just free flowing this thing. Kyler Murray was so hit or miss tonight. He had really great moments at times, and then he had really, really bad moments at times. Like, Kyler Murray, he's great. Like, there's no denying that. Kyler Murray's great. But some of the throws he made tonight were absolutely terrible. His 2 interceptions I think he had tonight, maybe 3. And I think the third one ended up being dropped. Yeah, he only had 2. That third one ended up being dropped late in the game. But I'm just thinking, like, come on. Like, that's really bad. Like, the one of them was tipped by Aaron Donald, oh my gosh, he had a monster freaking game. He's an absolute beast. Aaron Donald is a freaking beast. He started this game with a sack and ended it with a sack. Like, that's just freaking amazing. The Cardinals should have been triple teaming him at some point. Like, it was that bad. Like, the Cardinals needed to triple team him because he was just blowing up their line. He just destroyed the Cardinals offensive line the entire freaking game. The entire game. It was great. And because like, when you're a fan of one team like I am, the Chiefs, and really the only other game and team that you get to watch, or other games you get to watch around prime time, you don't get to see how good they are. And when you see that, a broadcast hyping up a guy like Aaron Donald, you're just like, well, he's not very good. He's not getting to the quarterback. Well, and then you think in your head, you realize, oh, he was getting triple teamed then, and now he's just blowing up the entire line because they refused to double team him. So that's on the Cardinals. They had no way of stopping him. Aaron Donald was completely dominant in this game. He was an absolute beast this entire game. That tipped ball caused an interception. Just the sacks that he was doing, the amount of pressure he was getting on Kyler Murray is very, very fast. I thought at times Kyler Murray played great outside of the interceptions. I really did. Like, his ball, when he's just on the run and he just flicks it up there. Him and Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers makes it look effortless, just throwing it normally. But Kyler Murray on the run literally just makes it look like he does that every day like he could do it in his sleep. It was crazy. Kyler Murray on the run, just throwing it up, flicking his, wrist, flicking it, whatever. It just throws it. It's so beautiful. It looks so effortless. It looks easy to him. It's just crazy how easy it looks for Kyler Murray and him to just do that. It makes no sense that a guy, first of all, he's small. James Conner, we'll get to him. He had an amazing game too. I thought James Conner, I think he was injured a lot when he was in Pittsburgh, but maybe the Steelers moving off of him maybe wasn't a good idea, because they could have used him and Najee Harris, because James Conner had an amazing game. Like, the one play that Aaron Donald was not good on was when James Conner just beasted him into the end zone. That was awesome. That was impressive. But yeah, Kyler Murray, he's so effortless when he does it. It's just impressive, the way he flicks the ball up, just does so well with it. But then he had those really bad turnovers. It doesn't make sense. And the point I was getting at too earlier is like Kyler Murray looks like he should be the running back because James Conner, it just looks so weird. It looks like a little kid in the freaking backfield with Kyler Murray back there. He's so small compared to everybody else on the field, but he just can do everything on the field. Like, yeah, take away the mistakes. Kyler Murray obviously could have played better. I mean, the entire Cardinals offense could have played a little bit better because DeAndre Hopkins dropped a really big fourth down play in the red zone. That was one of the mistakes. They had two huge mistakes in the red zone by the Cardinals because I felt like they were able to move the ball fairly well in this game. I really did. Murray had that tip interception, and D-Hop had that drop, which apparently was his first drop of the season, and that was such a bad time for the first drop of the season to come. That's the absolute worst because Kyler Murray threw for over 300 yards. Like, he had a great game, and the amount of talent that the Cardinals have is just insane. It is absolutely insane because you obviously start at quarterback with Kyler Murray. Great. James Conner showing himself that he's worth a lot because James Conner, I think there was just a really, really good stat that I read and saw for James Conner. I think he was second in the league right now in rushing touchdowns. That may be what it is. But that was just great. That James Conner, such a value piece of that offense. But then you just look at literally everybody else. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously he had that big drop. It was huge. Great. AJ Green still has it. A guy that they said was washed. He couldn't stay healthy in Cincinnati, but now that he's completely healthy playing, he played a great game. Christian Kirk, great game. Zach Ertz, great game. I mean, the offensive line really struggled in that game. They really, really did. So the offensive line could have definitely played better for the Cardinals in this game. But yeah, Murray, his terrible interceptions. And then you got to look at Kliff Kingsbury, man. Kliff Kingsbury is a moron. Like, there was the 4th and 1 and field goal range when they still needed 10 points. They should have kicked the field goal at that point. And I don't know why they didn't. That's completely on Kliff. They didn't use Kyler Murray. I know we were just raving about James Conner, but like, you had Kyler Murray. Like, I don't know why they didn't use him. Like, Kliff made some really stupid decisions in this game. And the end of the game for the Cardinals was botched completely. You had the onside kick, which was successful, which in a week it was just completely nuts when it came to onside kicks. And it was like 4, 5, 6 of them. It was a lot. It was kind of impressive. I jumped out of my seat. I'm like, oh gosh, the Cardinals actually have a chance to do this. But they botched the end of it. They had a holding penalty, false start. The holding penalty was kind of questionable, I guess you could say. That's kind of like the refs just kind of inserting themselves at the completely wrong time. If that happened in the first quarter, fine, I get it. But it's late in the game, literally under a minute left, and you do that garbage. False start, and then they didn't spike it at the end. They completely botched the end of that. That made no sense to me whatsoever. But it did end with an Aaron Donald sack, which it started and ended the game. And the Rams, man, the Rams in this game were awesome. Like, this is a win that the Rams desperately needed. They desperately needed this for their playoff picture. And I read it earlier in the video. The Cardinals, that loss, that moves them down to 3. The Rams are at 5 now. They didn't move, but guess what? They're 1 game back of the Cardinals and the NFC West, which is a division they thought was going to be a dogfight. I mean, you could argue that it is now. You have the Rams who are making a push. You have the Cardinals who are still in the league, but, a loss right here, kind of a bad spot for them to lose. And then you have the 49ers winning. They've shown a lot of potential this year. The Seahawks, I'm not saying that there's no way they can win the division, but if you look at the Seahawks, they rally off a few wins here. The NFC West could be crazy. The Rams, just as a whole, they played a great game. Like, Matthew Stafford looked really, really good. The Rams offense finally looked good for once, which it was off for the longest time, and I don't know why. Like, they beat the Jaguars last week. Fine, I get it. It's the Jaguars. But 3 weeks before that, losing 3 in a row, they looked bad against the Titans. They looked bad against the 49ers, and then they looked bad against the Packers, and then, last week winning against Jacksonville, and then getting this win. This win was huge for them. They really, really needed this victory, and they got it, and they looked good doing it. I really thought they did. Matthew Stafford had a great game, throwing 3 touchdowns. What else can you ask for a guy like that? From Matthew Stafford, a guy who obviously they had high hopes for, coming in, primetime spot, desperate game, having a lot of players out. He played amazing. He had a really good game. Sony Michel came in with Darrell Henderson also out, played a very solid game, rushing the ball, 20 carries, 79 yards, looking good. And then that receiving core, man, Robert Woods was a definite loss for that team. And it really sucked to see him go down because you've seen the promise and how good he has been at times, or just his entire career, how good he has been. And for him to go down, and this receiving core, their top 3 receivers showed up. They showed up. Cooper Kupp, 13 receptions, 123 yards, a touchdown. OBJ, 6 receptions, 77 yards. This is probably one of his best games in probably 2 or 3 years. Like, that's how good. I can't remember a game that he looked this good in Cleveland. Like, the last time he looked good was with the Giants. And it's been years since Odell looked this good. Van Jefferson only had 2 catches, but he made them count. 58 yards, a really long TD bomb. You know, it was only 3 guys, but, you know, Tyler Higbee out. You kind of lose a good receiving tight end in Higbee, and then you have these 3 step up, Kupp, Odell, and Van Jefferson. So those 3 guys definitely stepped up in a big way and played great. Like, Cooper Kupp, like, you just look at the guy and he does not look fast. Cooper Kupp does not look fast, but when he gets that ball in his hand, he makes everybody on the defense look like fools. He really did. Like, there was one play, I think he had one of the receivers just completely on skate, or the defenders on skates, and it was just insane. Like, Cooper Kupp, just looking at him, he doesn't look like he should be that good. But when he's on the field, when you watch him, he's just absolutely insane. And Odell, man, Odell had a game. I'm sure Odell's really happy to see that. And I'm sure his dad's happy to see that, because now, you know, we can all blame it on Baker. I guess you can contribute a little bit to Baker because, you know, he is the quarterback and Matthew Stafford is the quarterback, and Matthew Stafford is getting him the ball, getting it to him on target and everything else. And the fact that Odell hasn't been there very long, and Odell was in Cleveland for a few years and they can never connect. Baker may have been a little bit of the problem if you take that stance like I am. Baker could have definitely, they had a lot more time than obviously Matthew Stafford and Odell has had. So, I mean, you could blame a little bit on Baker. I mean, they're not a good fit, but, you know, 3 years or so I think they had to get things together, and they didn't play well. That's a little bit on Baker. I'm going to stick with that. I think that was on Baker. I really do. And it was great to see Odell. He had an awesome celebration. That one nearly broke Twitter. But yeah, and then Sean McVay, you know, obviously great head coach, looked really good coaching in this game. There was one play where they called it a complete catch when it wasn't, and Sean McVay nearly threw the interception before the refs could even get in their huddle. Like, he almost threw it as soon as the ref blew the whistle for the play. He grabbed it and was about to throw it, but they got it fixed. But yeah, that was really funny, really cool to see. But yeah, just as a whole, this game was a lot of fun. It did come to the end. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I know some people were just on there betting for the over, and I can't legally bet where I'm at, which really stinks. But yeah, it was a really fun game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This NFL playoff race for both conferences is going to be an absolute dogfight and an absolute mess for the rest of the year. I love every second of it. It's going to be, I mean, the Packers, Cardinals, Rams, Buccaneers obviously are going to make it, but we don't know where they're going to figure out. Cowboys, they should make it, but hey, it's the Cowboys. You don't know what could happen. It's just, the NFC is just an absolute dogfight. It's a mess. I love every second of this year. I love the fact that literally nobody, week 14 of the season, nobody has clinched a playoff spot. We've had 4 teams clinch not making the playoffs, which that's actually more of a shocker to me than, or which more of a shocker to me is the fact that nobody has clinched a playoff spot than 4 teams being out. It just makes no sense, especially with 7 seeds now. But you have the AFC North, nobody wants to win. Everybody in the NFC is so top heavy. You have the AFC where nobody makes sense. You have the Ravens free falling. The Chiefs are looking good. You have the Patriots are looking like the Patriots again. You have the Titans, who are injured to heck, who have looked really good, are about to get healthy. This playoffs, it's just going to be nuts. It is going to be completely nuts. But yeah, that is my review for Monday Night Football between the Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams won this game 30-23. I forgot to mention earlier in the video. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.